Good morning, Grizzlies.
I'm Valen.
I'm Caleb.
Starting off our broadcast, shocking comments left by American politician Mark Robinson. Comments in which he had left on an adult entertainment site message board recently resurfaced, in which, according to CNN, he refers to himself as a black Nazi and expressed support for reinstating slavery. Robinson denies making these claims, yet his full name had been listed in his profile on the site, along with an email account of his that he has used across numerous websites over the decades. Robinson continues to deny his part in these comments, despite the evidence stacked against him. In other news, Sean Combs, also known as P. Diddy, was arrested on September 16th and charged with racketeering conspiracy and sex trafficking. Department of Homeland Security agents conducted raids on 2 homes belonging to Sean Combs on March 25th. Suspicion arose after several civil lawsuits claiming abuse and sexual assault by multiple victims. According to News Nation Now, Combs denied the allegations when standing trial, but was ultimately placed into custody and was denied bail twice. On a further note, on Monday morning, Israel launched strikes on Hezbollah, Lebanon. According to the Washington Post, Lebanon's health ministry has stated at least 492 people were killed and more than 1,642 were wounded. Israel claims to have managed to strike approximately 800 targets, and while Lebanon's casualty count did not distinguish between civilians and combatants, it was said that many children, women, and paramedics were amongst the casualties. This attack followed the twin attacks that had taken place a few days prior, in which pagers and walkie-talkies used by members of the Hezbollah military exploded, killing 37 and injuring 2,700. The U.S. Defense Department plans to send out a few dozen troops in order to help American citizens flee the targeted areas. Ending on a positive story, the U.S. Navy has launched their first co-ed submarine, the USS New Jersey, meant to accommodate a crew of both men and women. That's all for World, now on to Local.
Thank you, Valen. On September 28th, the Met Club will be hosting their crab feed at 5:30 to support all MHS students. The feed will be at the McMill Community Center. For more information, you can visit the Met Club website. In other news, the celebration preparations for 100-year-old Bernard's Farm on Highway 18 is underway. The barn has been standing for 100 years and started as a farmer's market in 1971. It's a popular place for fresh produce and fuels our local economy. In other news, the Yamhill County Art Harvest Studio is hosting 30 years. The studio started in 1994 as a nonprofit to support local artists, and it continues to this day. You can also buy the artist's work, and all the proceeds will make their way back to the creator. You can check everything out on the website and look at all the great work. That's all for local news. Now on to election coverage with Henry.
Hey Grizzlies, welcome back to the big board. All right, let's get it started with a little bit of a check-in on the state of the race. So Kamala Harris leads all of these Rust Belt states by about 2 points, and then we have a split vote here in the South. Nevada just going to Harris by the slimmest margin, same with Arizona except for Trump. And then the South has sort of coalesced around Trump, although by the narrowest margins. Let's make a quick pit stop in North Carolina, actually. So on the mention of that previous story, North Carolina is a very, very critical state for Donald Trump. He needs to win this state in order to win the election. And right now, that seems to be slipping from his grasp. Recent polls have showed Harris gaining on him, especially after that black Nazi story. That governor candidate, fun fact, was actually endorsed by Donald Trump. They shook hands. Donald Trump actually called him Martin Luther King on steroids, which is a bad thing to say about somebody who is a Nazi. I think we can all agree the Nazis are bad. That shouldn't be a hot take, but it is. Okay, so we're going to look at North Carolina. North Carolina is actually a very strategic Democrat victory. They really also want to win this state. This is going to be really competitive because North Carolina has actually been narrowing down. Let's take a look at the 2020 election. It was a 0.13 margin, right? But before the election, before the previous election was a 0.37. So North Carolina has actually not voted for a Democrat since 2008 by the slimmest of margins is 0.33 for Obama in 2008. And the Democrats are really hoping to start gaining territory because you'll notice, let's go back to the 2020 election, you'll notice that all of these swing states, all of the swing states that are up for grabs right now, all went to Democrats besides North Carolina. North Carolina is the only new state that's on the map right now, and Democrats are really hoping to gain that because they want to start gaining territory and start gaining momentum into the next few years of elections. All right, and we're also going to take a quick look at Nebraska here in the Midwest. So Nebraska is a very interesting state because they do their elections slightly differently than everybody else because they have this little system where you'll notice that there is a big chunk of red, then a little chunk of red, and then inside that little chunk of red, there's an even smaller chunk of blue. So how they do their elections is they have an at-large district. So that's a popular vote just like all of the other states. But then they have these little individual districts that each vote in their own individual elections, and they decide who they send their votes to. So this kind of corresponds with Maine. They kind of do a similar thing. Although the national Republicans, have been cooking up a little bit of a scheme where they've been trying to change Nebraska so that all of the electoral votes, all 5 of them, would end up going to Donald Trump. So Kamala Harris would lose this this one singular elector. And you might be asking, hey, we're talking matters of hundreds here. What difference can one elector make? Well, I want to show you. I want to show you what difference one elector can make. So now we're going to show you what happens if Kamala Harris were to lose Nevada, which is very possible because of how narrow Nevada's margins are. If she were to lose Nevada, it goes to a 270-268, which is a very, very narrow margin, one of the narrowest margins we've ever seen, but still technically a victory. But if we subtract that little district, like Republicans were trying to do, then it goes to a 269-269. So we haven't seen a 269-269 tie since 1876, when Rutherford B. Hayes and Samuel Tilden faced off in the post-Civil War era. And it threw the country into a really big crisis, because we didn't know who the president was going to be. There's no winner of the election. And so essentially we had to hash it out in the Senate and it took an incredibly long time. And it was not a great result. Nobody was really happy with it. So yeah, they were essentially trying to get it into this 269-269 area. But there was a singular Republican legislature in the state of Nebraska that said, no, we're not going for this. I don't want to do it. I don't want to tie my name to this. So that district will stay blue, most likely. And that's really all we got for the election. We're going to get more polling, more interesting developments as we move towards the election. But right now, this is about the state of it. All right, moving on to entertainment with Chaos.
Thank you, Henry. Now that we're here on the more entertaining side of the news channel, let's tune in to the sports side of things. Tuesday, on the 24th, the Pac-12 filed a lawsuit against Mountain West, arguing that the tens of millions that they owe Mountain West in poaching fees due to a prior scheduling agreement amounted to an antitrust violation. 2 weeks ago, the Pac-12 added 4 Mountain West schools: Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, and San Diego State, which would put the fee owed to Mountain West at $43 million, on top of the $18 million per school in exit fees. In late 2023, Pac-12 and Mountain West signed a 2024 football scheduling agreement in which Mountain West added Oregon State and Washington State to its team's schedules in exchange for $14 million. But as said in the agreement, the sides would work in good faith to potentially merge their leagues. There was also a table of poaching penalty fees that the Pac-12 would face if it added some but not all Mountain West schools, ranging from $10 million for one school to up to $137.5 million for 11 schools. There would be no fee for adding all 12 schools. Up next, Chad McQueen unfortunately passed away September 11th due to organ failure at 63. His family announced his death in a social media post alongside a photo of him as a boy with his father, Stephen McQueen. Chad McQueen was involved in more than 25 movies and television shows as an actor, a producer, and in other capacities, but he is most widely recognized for his role as Dutch in the 1984 teenage classic The Karate Kid. Alongside Chad McQueen, we have lost the life of another iconic figure, Toriano Adriel Jackson, also known as Tito Jackson, passed away September 15th due to a heart attack while driving to Oklahoma from New Mexico. Tito Jackson was a founding member of the Jackson 5, who along with brothers Jackie, Jermaine, Marlon, and Michael all became teen idols in the 70s with a string of hits that included ABC and I'll Be There. May they both rest in peace. On more fortunate news, there's a new DreamWorks animated film said to be released January 31st, 2025, based on the character Dogman, created by Dave Pilkey and featured in the Captain Underpants books. Dogman is nearly here, and you can watch the trailer right now on your own. Dogman's unique visual style harkens back to Captain Underpants movies, but also pushes things considerably further. That has to do with the production designer Nate Ragg, who worked on the Captain Underpants movie, but also worked on the much beloved film Puss in Boots and The Last Wish. I'm sure that enjoyers of the Captain Underpants books and film will love this movie adaptation of Dogman. Speaking of beloved films, the second Beetlejuice movie hit the big screens on September 6th and was rated a 7 out of 10 by IMDb, along with a 77% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 62% from Metacritic, and made $335.3 million in box office. Sounds to me like the Beetlejuice 2 movie was a hit with the fans, featuring the entire old cast, plus some new faces. Anywho, folks, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you, Chaos. That's all we have for today's broadcast. I've been Caleb.
I've been Valen.
Thanks for watching.